her ability to dive much earlier than Maokai. So there is that, but still Maokai is first pick of old. And Annie has really climbed the charts. Might just be the choice here for Live Sandbox.
Flex pick and goes into support as well as into the bot lane. And the only reason we haven't talked about Varus yet is because Maokai was open. Generally, Varus is that B1 pick that we have seen many a time. Strong lane with the Annie, but not quite sure whether that is going to be where it ends up. If you have any Varus and then at least your early dives are extremely threatening, really easy CC chains that you can set up. And I kind of would love this Sivir pick. It makes it a lot harder to reliably find early game plays. Now post 6, of course, still Annie with the opportunity to take it down. And when you already have a Maokai, Sivir just makes a ton of sense. You already have the front line that you need. And
Sivir what? Is my question.
That's fine. We'll deal with that when you get the
deal with that later.
Yeah, if Sandbox throw a ban towards Lulu, I don't know how bothered you are going to be. It takes away most of the good enchanters, but can always throw together just an engage supports. Those are kind of back in the meta at the moment. And oh, wow. Wheeler!
He's really throwing the gauntlet with this one, as it's been picked twice, and it has won twice. And none of those wins have been Wheeler yet. Maybe this is his moment.
No, one was Owner.
Yeah, one was Owner. I'm trying to remember the other one.
I don't know. Good question. Could have been like a Canyon game, maybe? Canyon is another player that loves picking Lee.
It might have been Canyon.
As Renaxin, unsurprisingly, going to get taken away. The one champion that Kana has looked good on without a shadow of a doubt. Now, Kana still has good performance, has had good performances on other champions, but the Renekton is the only one where I feel like he is going to be good no matter what. Still undefeated in the champion as well. If I am not mistaken, Cassinan going to get taken away here, kind of signaling that D+ also expects Sandbox to lock in a blind top laner here. Still going to get rid of the Heimer, which has been dropping sharply in priority. And the tough part about the Sandbox draft here is that if they lock in a top laner, you still have no idea if this is any mid or support.
Okay, well, they were watching the last game, the last series with T1 in it, so they're going to give Kyle some respect and say, okay, you might actually pick Callista. Jax is available, and, you know, Fiora is here. I mean, there's a couple of other options. The Gnar is not going to do great into this, as we've seen Jax be a counterpick to that multiple times. So they're just going to blind Jax and save counterpick for potentially mid, or it could be for support with that flex hand.
Can go for 1-4 here with a Fiora. Fiora or Gnar seems more like... I don't love the Gnar for the same reasons that you pointed out. The upside is that you do have a strong setup as... He's back!
Who the hell is that?
He's back, Feldes! He's here!
Never seen this champ before.
He's made his way back onto the Rift.
Are you saying that the Kench is unbenched?
I'm saying he's back on the... He's unbenched. It's done, Feldes. And a lot of the hard-shoving supports are already out. So for Sandbox, you now have the opportunity to either still slot in Annie towards the bot side of the map and lose a lot of the all-in pressure that she can otherwise provide. Or you try and maybe pick an enchanter to something like a Soraka to benefit from the lack of pressure that's going to come through from a Sivir Kench lane.
Yeah. What is this Gnar pick, by the way? Because it's closer with Sylas available. Also, Jax was blind picked into this. What?
Yeah.
I don't know what to say about that, to be honest. But I suppose we are getting to the point where Gnar is just so comfortable and can get through any lane that players are just willing to pick it into anything, including Sylas.
So post the first few levels, I do expect Kana to be able to have Prio for a decent amount of time. And specifically with Maokai, the Gnar to me becomes a lot more certain in value due to being able to... The Gnar into Jax in of itself I would be okay with, but I agree that the Silas really tilts it over the top because it is comfort for closer. As Valdez, you guys can't say this, but it's like pointing at the nameplate and like, yes, you are right, Valdez. It's closer.
Look at the nameplate.
And the only player that at this point is better at melee mids is Zeka, and he won Worlds with them.
Chovy plays a mean Silas as well.
Okay, I'm getting carried away, but safe to say, closer was very good at them. And on any given day, he can hard carry with them. Giving him an R ultimate for no reason is not the way to go. And the one saving grace for D+ is that we have seen that the Silas has struggled a lot more, particularly into Victor, unable to find early game plays. And that is what you're going to have to find here, because the scaling of the Sivir, of the Kench, and of the Maokai is going to be really hard to match. And I don't think Sandbox, even with the pressure that they have in terms of side lanes and the skirmishing power that they have great ways of punishing D+ early. So, good luck.
Yeah.
If you don't find the lead early on, this D+ comp is almost unplayable to play into. And that's where Sandbox have excelled. They do have an incredibly aggressive top side with an Annie.
Yeah,
but
this
still,
whole comp, I mean, we'll see. Who's going to pick who? That's what this game is beginning to devolve into here at the LCK. Guys, let's jump onto the Rift for game number 1. Uh-oh. You know, Annie gets her Pyromaniac, I believe that's the name, at level 1 without having to
She
stack
does
it.
now.
Yeah. So, they're waiting for a push from Annie. There she is. Silas is also very strong at level 1. And DK just going to bully them out of the jungle, but they still get a ward down.
Don't want to flip it. And their level 1 is, barring Kanj, definitely less impressive.
Than Silas Annie.
Yeah, well, it's Silas Annie, and also Varus, if he gets a kill, just clears the rest. Lee.
Yeah.
It's not fair. There's too many skills. So, call
60 gold to Kyle, by the way.
Yeah.
He's
stacking it up already.
Hanging out, collecting gold.
There are exactly 2 win conditions for Sandbox. It's get your side lanes ahead and 1-3-1, or snowball the game early. Because if you get in on even footing and you're unable to actually find any side lane pressure, and you're trying to 5v5 with a pick comp into Kench, Maokai Sivir, and Victor, it's not good. It's a bad time, Valdez.
Yeah, it's not good. It's also bad.
It's actually both.
Also, it's crazy. I mean, generally it's one or the other, but
I'm not above nuance.
Yeah.
Things can be good and bad both.
It's true.
And in this case, it's really just that.
Yeah, if that happens. So, you know, they do have a lot of angles to get this ahead. I think that Willer with this Lee Sin pick is trying to say, okay, like, let me try to define this early game. And Lee Sin can do stuff as the game goes along, but not nearly as much as Maokai. You know, depending on how crazy the angles the Lee Sin can get. Definitely a higher skill ceiling champion than the point-and-click CC of the tree. But, you know, that's not necessarily the meta we see all the days. Generally, if you are going to go for a pick like that, you'd go for Elise, because she offers some other stuff and some safer dives as well. So you can, it's more of like a guaranteed early game, I feel. But Willer says, no, I'm gonna pull out all the stops for game 1. We're gonna give it a go. This is our prepared answer to Maokai. And I'm excited to see if it works out, although I'm a bit apprehensive about it at the moment.
Me too. As much as I love Lee, feels like this is a very tough composition for him to actually excel at. And Sandbox is the type of team that will look for early skirmishes, right? The early 2v2s, the early 3v3s, snowball around maybe a Herald, around a bot side objective, try and look for some invades, but actually finding invades will be tough. We do see, as expected, Brutal has prio on the early levels. Once Kana gets the next crash, I think we'll be feeling a lot more confident now that he has some skills available. But Closer is going to get shoved in for the foreseeable future.
Really nice CS under the turret, though.
Yeah, well,
he got everyone.
But as far as enabling Willer goes, it does, or it might rather lead into some issues, particularly if Canyon can keep a good track of where the Lee is going. And inactivity is kind of the dream for Damwon. And as I say that...
Okay, some stuns coming in, but it is, again, it's Tahm Kench. I know it's been a while, but he is basically the same champion. got nerfed a bunch and changed a bit, and he's still here. And this is what I mean when I say shaping the early game. Willer's trying to get as aggressive as possible and try to just skirmish with Canyon early on before he gets too tanky.
Good call. Willer going in very aggressive, gets the smite, even despite the burn, and will be able to pick it up. Canyon not having the smite available there, so was never going to get that. And this is looking good.
Yep, this is the first dive. I mean, if you're not doing this with this comp, you're doing something wrong, right?
Yep.
So, to be expected, and they do it very well.
Canyon going to make sure that his bot lane will still be safe, at least safeguarding them against a possible follow-up dive on the next wave. And yeah, you're going to have to just sack some early waves here. That is the reality of pre-6 Kanch Sivir, particularly into the early Varus. Will be on hit Varus here for Envy, as we again see that come through. Now he'll be hitting a lot of frontline, so I do think that it has a decent amount of value, but he himself doesn't have that much going on in terms of front line, which does mean that his positioning is going to have to be immaculate. Very tough to play out. But fortunately for Envy, after his debacle against Deft, he's been much more consistent. Not any of our best AD carries by any means, but as we pointed out, good enough to function in this sandbox team.
That was also a weird time in the meta, as I might have to hold that thought. Closer gets in, but level 6 hit by Showmaker. Closer going to use Dematerializer to hit 6 himself and essentially use that to say, okay, well, this is my lane now, but can't deny the laser.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually, Veldus. That's when we already saw Zeri Lulu into Lucianami, but it wasn't winning yet.
It wasn't winning, and Lucian Nami was incredibly strong as, okay, there's the cancel of the back. Nicely done. That can be used to push the wave as well. And Envy just did not respect Lucian Nami, and he didn't really respect, I should say, he and Kyle at that point. The vision game around the jungle and the amount of pressure that the jungle can put on in the bottom side. And it wasn't 100% explored as well, so this is a very different time in our league meta.
Yeah, I'm so glad the meta is so different now.
Well, at least it's a lot better understood. Let's say that. As Bertle's in a lot of trouble here. I don't think he's getting out of this one. He does have flash. He's opting to go south, and it might actually work out for him. As, no, Canyon just follow flashes. Oh, wait! Whoa! The flash auto from Kana's not enough! And the sapling is not even going to chase him. Always chug your potions, kids.
That's value right there. Brittle gets out. Still his wave not in the best spot, but you'll take that. Staying alive there. Also saw Willer was aware of that gank, didn't cancel his back, and call might have been, hey, we're gonna get the Drake. If Brutal dies, he dies, but we need to make sure that we start this early objective train rolling. But now they get both. Brutal gets out alive, is completely fine. Yeah, we'll be a bit behind. One wave, not gonna be the end of the world. And Willer can use the prio that they have in a bot lane in particular, even though right now it's also looking good for Closer, to get themselves an early Mountain Drake. Incredibly strong, and setting them up, more importantly, for a very strong mid-game.
Yeah, the Mountain Drake is going to help out actually pretty nicely for some of their tankier members. As this game comes along, we got Ocean next, which is also not a bad individual soul.
A little bit disjointed there from Envy and Kyle. Kyle hitting a stun, but Envy queuing a Kench.
Willer is doing this pretty well, but it's just a red buff. It seems like maybe he can extend onto it, and it doesn't look like Canyon really cares enough to do much about it, or thought that he could. So yeah, they're just gonna continue playing around the prio on bot.
As they, both teams doing what they should. D+ should not try to contest these, and Sandbox need to do this. So we're really just handshaking in the weirdest way, where D+ saying, yeah, no, take it, it's fine, it's your red buff.
Yeah.
No biggie.
And Willer's like just running in a straight line through mid to Rift Herald right now, as we speak.
And yeah, we are seeing the back being fully completed, as Birdle miraculously here stays alive. Extra tankiness going to be enough, and then the Q. Can't believe that flash auto didn't get him. There we see the healing to come through. Will stay alive, also the Doran shield, so gonna be feeling good is old Birdle making his way out.
Old Birdle.
Old Birdle. Well, I usually use that name for Dundun, but he's not in this game.
Yeah.
So gotta find a way somehow.
So MB elects not to take this plate. I'd say that is a mistake. Although maybe he's not 100% sure like where the bottom lane is because
so
it seemed pretty free,
it
but
looks,
he wanted a better back timing, I guess.
Yeah, well, not only that, it looks bad, but also his top side was getting Herald. So if you stay for the plate and you end up dying as a result, then it kind of negates the value from... He could have done it. I also think they had a not intel on the top half of the map, but Envy playing it very, very safe there is going to miss the plate, which is unfortunate. And those are the types of... types of little risks that... Them not taking it is understandable given how the previous game between these two teams went, but I also would implore Sandbox to do take... You do need to kind of start pushing the gas pedal a little bit, right? Because, yeah, D+ is behind about like 700, 600 gold. That's not going to be the end of the world when you look at the composition that they have. Like, they're freely scaling towards the first item on Showmaker, on Deft, so this Herald needs to be used somewhere. Would love to see Closer with this TP, maybe get Prio back in mid, and then look for an aggressive dive. But now, Kellen and Deft getting fed, or getting level 6 rather, means that Kellen can now eat, and I guess get fed. As there's going to be plates in the mid lane here.
Yeah. Looks like Closer won some, so yeah, he'll pick up some gold for himself. Splitting that plate with his jungler. And you're right, I mean, really the only gas pedal that has been pressed has been the objective gas pedal. Willer did go from Dragon to enemy red buff straight to the Rift Heralds. But other than that, you know, 0-0 game, kind of just chilling out. Willer hasn't created any kills just yet. So if you're DK, I mean, especially with the Tahm Kench, like when this game comes along, you might say, oh, well, Live Sandbox have great skirmishing, they have great pick potential, but then there's just Tahm Kench. Part of the reason why this guy was nerfed into Oblivion and eventually kind of fell out of the meta was because he was really good at just preventing any sort of, you know, hard engage, especially like pick, like singular pick, and he's back.
Well, I gotta say, to me, Kench is one of those champions where if he's pickable in this spot, that's good. He should not be blindable. No matter what, which unfortunately generally is what happens, because we love our Kench in the LCK. But in a spot like this, where you're playing into a comp with a lot of single target damage, that is going to try and find reset after reset, right? Like getting the entire rotation of cooldowns in one guy, blow him up, and then move on to the next. Kench is kind of perfect. And Sandbox also had the opportunity to go for, as mentioned previously, something like a Soraka, to try and really punish it, but instead opted into what I think is still a great Silas pick, but also kind of shows that it's a little tough as... Yeah, Ken's just...
I'm just laughing so much because there were like 5 control wards that were used in this skirmish alone.
Yeah.
I'm just imagining, oh man, the Vision game. It's a topic of many a discussion nowadays. And like there was one being taken out and it got replaced, and then that one's now being taken out. There were multiple others, so now the side of DK don't have any control wards, and this means that they're not really going to be in a good spot to fight for this Drake. I'm not sure if they really should or if they want to, as we do have a trade up on the top side. Little Counter-Strike goes in and an ult procced by Bertle, but their Hyper Proc comes in, and I don't think he wants to fight that any further.
I don't think they should go for this one. Depending on what comes up next, the fate of the game is going to go in 2 very different directions. If the next Drake is a Chemtech or a Cloud, there's a oh, hold up.
Now they're going to try to pick the Maokai with the Tahm Kench standing behind him. That didn't work. As they saw very soon, his Closer's in a lot of trouble. He is getting pretty low, and nice little seal, but it's a bit too much as Willer goes in, kicks in the Sivir, and he's on the run. There is actually a chance as Kyle gets in and shields him. Not sure about that one, though, as it's not quite enough. Envy now frontlining is going to get a flash as he's 1v3, but everybody is so low that he actually is winning this trade. And man, a very forced fight from Live Sandbox, but it actually goes the way of DK.
And Sandbox, unfortunately, they have to force that fight. You can't give up this objective, but they don't quite find the damage. And in our first fight, we immediately see the value of Kench. Right, Maokai gets saved from the upfront burst, Showmaker gets a ton of damage down, and then a really nice knock-up from Callan. Closer dies to the sapling after all, and then even with Wheeler finding this play, the sustain that's available is still quite substantial, and without the Silas to look for repeated cooldown rotations, they just don't have the damage. And, you know, they all walk away with very low health bars.
Bless their heart, they tried so hard.
They really
keep Wheeler alive.
And they should. But it's not enough. And now...
All right, here we go again.
I think they'll still get this Drake, but that's okay. Because already getting gold onto Canyon, getting gold onto Showmaker early on, trying to accelerate their victory is wonderful. And it is Cloud, and that's one of the souls that even though I do think it's underrated, you can afford to give it up and still have a lot of angles back into a game, particularly when your comp outskills to the degree that Sandbox does it. The one upside is that it will make rotating around the map easier for Sandbox because, well, they won a 1-3-1. I don't see them winning team fights after what we just witnessed.
Yeah.
And we don't even have items yet on D+. Well, now they do, kind of.
Yeah, they got one item for a couple of people. There are 2 carries at least. Maokai, you could argue he's a carry because he does everything, but in this case, we will say he is not. Second Rift Herald will go the way of DK. As it didn't seem like Live Sandbox were really in a spot to contest it. Closer versus spot side, he's like, well, I can get a free turret anyway, and that's just about what the Rift Herald is going to give anyway, so I guess I'll just take this down instead.
Bit of an oopsie from D+, giving up free first turret blood. Not a necessity, but they are down a teleport. Do know that Showmaker has gone for Ghost. Dana, do you think that they spotted this? As we do see some pings going down, so let's have a Tribrush ward, will be completely fine. But Birdo doing a good job of making sure that the turret doesn't go down. As a result, we do see that the Silas is able to accelerate himself a wee bit further.
Mid now is just these 80 carries.
Wow, come on, Def. Do a worse job of sidestepping.
You were supposed to get hit by that one.
Couldn't even get hit. Unbelievable.
He's just that good, I guess. We still have that 25 CS lead for Envy. He's feeling pretty good about that. He has gone for the on-hit variant of the Varus. So a potential threat in these later game team fights. If Live Sandbox get themselves into not like an obvious winning situation, but if they're ahead, I suppose there is a way for Envy to go for this, as that is the chains, and guess what? Tom Kench exists, so that is just going to be the Devour.
Also, with the top matchup going the way that it has, there hasn't been that much attention from Wheeler. He's visited top a bunch of times, but hasn't really been able to find an actual angle. We do see that Kana, as expected in the 1v1 early on, is having a great time, able to keep the Jacks on the back foot. It's really only Keen as we do see some posturing, but nothing going to happen. That has been able to consistently win this matchup on the Jack side of things, but eventually we will reach the point where Builder hits second, and third item in particular will be able to just take down Kana because he will have enough burst to just kill him in mini, and then Kana is just going to sit there and be a little sad. But by that point, D+ is just going to look for team fights anyway, so...
No, he'll be mini sad.
He will be mini sad. Thank you, Valdez.
Yeah. That's the correct wording on that one.
I appreciate it. Yeah, you know, English is not my first language, so
yeah,
I am always looking for improvement. I've already kind of ventured into some semi-Dutch today.
Closer is playing Maokai. The other thing about the Silas is that if you have an issue with the Nature's Grasp, you can essentially just steal it as well, and you can just say, okay, well, neither of us are engaging well, at least. So that's one way the Silas also gets value. It feels like the very obvious pick for Live Sandbox in the draft. We talked about that already with the Silas and Closer.
Yeah, don't have a lot to talk about in this one. Unlike the previous game, if you did catch it, was not necessarily always the cleanest of games and did end on a bit of a downer ending, but as a whole was very action-packed. Not so much this time around. Just taking it easy. Which, for D+ is A+, one might say.
2 thumbs up.
Yep. Because they don't want anything to happen. That's the ideal game state.
looks like we're going Banshees here for Closer. It's one way to make sure that he is always a threat in some of these team fights. Like, if he doesn't go for a tanky item here and only builds damage, there is potential, especially as the game comes along, for him to just get burst down before he can do the annoying, like, Silas stay forever thing. So, one way to avoid some of those annoying early picks from the side of DK.
Ooh, early quick blade theft? Is it happening?
Is it?
Make me very happy.
Is it real?
It's real. We've seen it like once. It's really strong, and I would love for that to be a thing.
To build those items in that sequence.
He does have a pickaxe, so I have a dream, Valdez.
All right, well, that's going to charge on in. They're trying to use this for position on the Drake, which they will get alongside of the little saplings, as always.
Ooh, Closer. Big ultimate.
Yep, Closer's got it. He actually tried to go in there on Takana, as here comes Meganar. And there you go, the flash shot in there, trying to get on top of Closer, who's just going to ult him. And guess what? Showmaker just dies on the left side of the screen. We didn't even really get to see that, as everybody was chasing Closer, who had Gnar ultimate. And Showmaker was left out to dry, used both of his summoners, and still died.
Yeah, not sure what happened there. I'm going to have to see a replay for that one. We know how Closer survived, and yes, you have good hard engage with Maokai, but you still need everyone on the same page, and Silas is notoriously hard to kill.
And the pick potential from Live Sandbox, you have to stay together.
You really do.
Stand next to Tom Kench. He's very large. He's a catfish.
He's not easy to miss.
He's right there.
He's right there. He's waddling.
Look, there's flash down on Envy and Kyle. I guarantee you it's just flash Tibbers into flash Chains of Corruption. Like, how many times have we seen this? And it's just a great play setup from Live Sandbox as Showmaker's trying to poke, and, well, this is what this comp does.
Oh, he flashed after them. Okay,
yeah.
Well, that's not ideal. Unfortunately, for Showmaker, they're never going to make it out of that one alive. Like, as you point out, the flash Tibbers itself, there's not a lot of counterplay besides Kellen being there, and a very important moment of weakness, because now Soul Point's available. We don't love Cloud Drake as much as many of our other souls, but in a 1-3-1 comp where you have an incredible amount of individual pick potential, being able to, like, rotate to a 1v1 or a 2v2 very quickly, still extremely valuable. And for D+, it's not the end of the world. They are still within gold grasp, and 2 item spikes on their carries is going to be really big. Deft in particular is now building towards that quick blades, which will be huge. But what worries me more is seeing that setup from D+, because that is not a good sign when that is your first actual 5v5 that you have.
Yeah, it's very true. And maybe that'll be a little bit of a wake-up call for DK. Like, at the end of the day, it is just the 1 kill into a Cloud Drake. It's not the soul yet. And maybe they'll say, okay, well, that can't happen again, so let's make sure, you know, we stick together, we play as 5, and maybe from here on out, they go ahead and try to fix some of those mistakes. As Live Sandbox, you know, already, it's just another team in the LCK that, you know, obviously when we first came into this one, we didn't really expect Live Sandbox to be a top team, but they have really cleaned everything up. By the way, Closer hitting level 15 with his rod right there. Their macro's clean, their mechanics are good, they play well as a team. Envy, you know, cleaned up some of his early issues. Bertle seemingly cleaned up some of his nerve issues. So they don't have a lot of issues anymore.
And much like Sandbox of last year, they also have something that makes it more than the sum of their parts. We've seen this team, sure, lose to some weaker teams, but also stand up against players of much higher caliber than themselves. Also, do note, love the interaction. Kael going, of course, for the Emax Annie. Really good into Maokai, because not only does it protect you against the damage, but it's also pretty obnoxious damage to take when you're Canyon. The upside is that it's not an AP Annie, so it doesn't sting quite as much as it might, but it does take away some of the impact from the saplings, and perhaps the Maokai kind of that we've been waiting for was there all along. It just wasn't buffed yet to the point where it was good in 2 roles all of a sudden out of nowhere, and had to be hotfixed.
The Mount, you said Mount.
The Annie. Yeah, the counter to Maokai is Annie. Yeah, I was leading up to it. I thought it was obvious, but if you didn't get it, then I don't
well,
know.
you know.
So that's on me. Apologies, Valdez.
Also on me, I should have understood.
Usually we're pretty in sync.
Yeah.
You can also outrun it. Didn't even mention that. You can just run away, not be too bothered.
Well,
Sometimes. Well,
yeah.
from saplings.
A lot of the time.
Not from everything. Well, you can try, but generally outrunning your problems only goes so far.
Yeah, that's true. It's good to be good at running and to get exercise, though. We definitely condone that here at the LCK.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the fight might stand or fall with, does Kellen get a good devour? As the Sivir has now reached a 2-item power spike, is only going to get stronger from here on out, but already is a force to be reckoned with. And Envy is about as strong as he gets. And that, to me, is the big difference maker, is that Sandbox, as soon as they hit the 2-item spike on Birdle, like Birdle individually, in the 1v1, same for Closer, is going to keep getting stronger and stronger, but in how they work in team fights, not necessarily going to be the case, whereas for D+, the team fighting is going to get more and more and more lethal. But again, we do see Sandbox very on top of their split pushing pressure.
Yeah, I mean, Closer is just here in a side lane. And DK are like, no, we'll just ignore that for a while. And down goes the turret, and level 16 for Closer now, who is 2 levels ahead of Showmaker, including the Rod level up.
Yeah, you're down a teleport as well. Showmaker going for this Ghost is incredible in team fights, and you can use it as kind of a pseudo-teleport while in lane, but when it comes to actual map movement and in the later stage of the game, it's very tough. Also, do note Sandbox can set up a trap here where they don't have to care about this Drake whatsoever. They can reliably threaten a Baron.
Oh, yeah.
If D+ doesn't really respect him. 3 items are done for Envy. Very, very big. This might be a make-or-break moment. If Sandbox can either get Soul or get themselves the Baron, looking in a pretty good position, but they do have to find the team fight. Need to make sure that Deft doesn't stay alive for too long.
See, there's that one ward in the mid lane right now for DK that's just showing the rotation of Live Sandbox every single time. So the second they start running towards the bush, Showmaker's right there to poke. And
Tana's Mega might be the window that Sandbox were looking for.
I guess. Okay, that was Closers. Yeah, I was like, what? Okay. Just throwing that out as Kellen goes in and goes out. Flashes. Tibbers, though, is out, so a fantastic bait, I suppose, at the end of it all. So no Tibbers now for Kyle. Down goes the Bear.
Still have W. Charges it up now.
Yep. He'll still have a stun, but is it going to be enough? Is it going to be as impactful? Kellen still with Devour is going to be huge as Birdle with the flank coming on in, and double Maokai ultimates as in goes Canyon, and the Cloud Drake is secured, and Canyon goes down, but Birdle is incredibly low as everybody on the side of Live Sandbox is just trying to go on the run. Kyle might be the sacrificial Annie at this point in time, as he is quite fast, but he will go down in the end, so they trade an Annie for a Cloud Soul, which helps them get away.
And you'll take that really nice split-up fight here from Sandbox. Crucially, they both take away the form of hard engage that D+ have available, and then also are able to secure the pivotal Drake. So Birdle makes his way around, and even though he doesn't end up getting that much damage done, he keeps them locked up. Then Closer also with the Maokai ult onto D+, is able to keep their distance, and these health bars are maddeningly low. But by the end of it, you trade it 1-for-1, which is completely fine, and you got the Soul.
Yep. And they ran really fast away.
They did.
From DK. Now,
just run. They actually did outrun their problems.
They did. It actually happened this time. The question is, that will always remain, you know, we're nearing the 30-minute mark. There hasn't been a ton of action in this game. Live Sandbox have, you know, taken pretty much every single objective, outside of the second Rift Herald, I suppose. But they're only 3,000 gold ahead. It is only a Cloud Soul, which is nice. It's not game-breaking.
No,
and Sivir is nearing 3 items.
If Deft and Showmaker is about to finish his Morellos, if Deft and Showmaker both, and again, I think Showmaker definitely will, but if Deft can get to 3 items as well on this next fight, then they might be in trouble. I would love if Sandbox just start up this Nash, even if it's just a turn.
Yeah.
Try and force a response out of D+, try and force them to make mistakes. If you let them scale to 3 items, you can still win the team fight, but it will be a lot harder because you don't 100-0 Deft. He's going to win them single-handedly, same for Showmaker. So I'd say start it up.
Well, there's not a lot of vision now for DK. They've even used their blue trinket, so I think Live Sandbox, instead of trying to start Baron, they're trying to turn with the lack of vision, you know, with the vision denial from DK so far.
Oh, you got to just pull the trigger there. Well, like, if you lose your mid turret, you lose it. Might get you a Baron. It's closer.
They spot the Sightless, and now DK are a little bit confused about what to do. Victor ultimate stolen and just used for poke. As the flank spotted early on means that DK, or rather Live Sandbox will not commit to the play.
They can't keep running away from this Veldas.
Yes, they can. They just proved that they could in the last fight.
Yeah, but that's going to stop working at some point. Deft level almost is level 15. He's almost level 16. He's going to have level 3 ultimate. No one outruns Sivir at that point, right? Guys?
Probably.
Maybe. Well,
I'd say most of the time.
Closer can steal it. Just both running at equal speeds.
Bertle doing a good job of continuously pushing the top lane. Bertle and Closer. It was Closer the first time. Here comes a... Oh, the teleport was just used in the mid lane. As, they've got a little angle here as the kick actually gets the top Ken straight into the team, and now Canyon is going to get picked as well. And look at the Sivir on the back line. There's just a Jax right on top of her, but the damage is still there. A lot of low health bars here on the side of Live Sandbox. And Showmaker's still full health as well. They have no fear. They're just going to go for it.
They can go for this. They can go for this, but they need to make sure to turn. Health bars are low.
Well, they're going to get the Gnar ultimate out.
I think they got it.
Look at the damage they do to this Baron. It's insane. Yeah, it's just going to go down. That's a Baron here for Live Sandbox. They get a couple of picks, and they just go for it, even with Deft and Showmaker alive. Doesn't matter.
And they arrive exactly when they need to. It's again the vision trap that's being set up here, and Kellen, his Devour, ends up being a disaster as it puts both him and Canyon. So well done by Wheeler. And you do see, yeah, the health bars get low, but Deft doesn't have a third item yet, and Showmaker also not able to actually approach. And Sandbox, they're skating close to the edge, but now we have the Baron power play, we have a soul point, and that might lead to the pickup of the Elder. And I love the D plus team comp. Yeah, sure, Deft gets a third item, but into an Elder buff. It's very little that you can do.
Yeah, you know, generally the comp won't matter unless you're really far ahead and you can burst them as they're taking the Elder. It's not going to matter too much. And Live Sandbox, this is the springboard they needed, right? This is like their moment in the mid to late game where it's like, okay, we don't care about comp because we use our pick. You're not online yet. We can just kill a couple of your members and take a giant objective advantage. And that's exactly what they've been able to do.
We keep...
Might be enough.
Yeah, we keep waiting for the D plus kind of comp to turn, but Sandbox have also been playing a textbook game. They get the early turrets, they get the early objectives, they have an early soul, they now got the Baron after a great individual or even two picks, thanks to Kellen getting kicked with Canyon still inside his belly. And now on this next fight, I don't think D plus can fight it. I don't think they have the itemization or the control.
Oh boy, that's maybe a dead Kana. He has a stopwatch. There is a Chaos Storm in there. They're going pretty deep for just the Gnar. Have they gone too deep is the question. They get the Maokai here, as now they're on the chase for Kellen. Look at the damage that Envy is putting into this one. Just tanking in the front line, gonna cleanse. Goes in with the stopwatch. Did he bait himself and his team in? He doesn't give a damn. He's still frontlining. This guy is insane. As now Closer gets to the back line. That is a clean ace from Live Sandbox as they will roll over DK and they will take the game.
And that is going to be it here for game number 1, Veldas. We kept waiting for D plus comps to turn online. Turns out, never gonna happen, at least not in this game. Clean game here in game number 1. Live Sandbox get all the resources that they want, and what a performance.
Yeah, I mean, what are you gonna say? That was Live Sandbox from minute 1 to minute 32. And DK, they were trying desperately to just buy time and not get picked, but it wasn't even like DK were making big mistakes or anything. It was just fantastic pickoffs from the side of Live Sandbox using their composition and their vision denial perfectly.
They just played a perfect game of League. Exactly played according to their comp, able to hit the early power spikes, able to snowball the objectives, and D plus made, what, one big mistake around the Baron. They got caught, lost the Baron, turned into a bot side fight, and that bot side fight, I thought that that was a turning point. Well, it was. It just was the end of the game. Looked very
Really?
dicey
Okay.
there for a little bit. And
Yeah.
the key thing that we're seeing here is that you cannot allow Sandbox to just